We have a loaded Philadelphia Eagles now coming your way on this Friday, and I hope all of you watching this show are getting set to have an incredible weekend. Coming up here on the show, the Kelly Green jerseys are returning for the 2024 season, and the dates have been announced for when Philadelphia is going to rock those icy Johns. Could the Birds sign a wide receiver who Philadelphia Eagles fans know very well, and he's very well known on TikTok? That's the tease. And also, I'm going to explain why Eagles fans should pay attention to this rising player on the Birds roster. First, let's go into the weekend on a high note, and then let's ride that high throughout the weekend and just pick up more victories over the Dallas Cowboys. Our sub-battle between Eagles Now and the Cowboys Report, two incredible channels here at Chat Sports, is one-sided, and I want to continue to make it one-sided. 951 new subscribers picked up on this program since June 1. Let's end the month with the bang and take down those fraudulent Dallas Cowboys. Hit that sub button right now for daily shows on the Birds. So the Eagles announcing the return officially of the Kelly Green uniforms, and Philadelphia is going to wear those jerseys twice this year during the 2024 campaign. Week 9 at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then at the end of the year, Week 17 against the Dallas Cowboys. So Jags, Cowboys, the two teams that the Birds will be rocking the Kelly Green jerseys against. And here are the official dates and start times for those football games. That Week 9 matchup against Jacksonville, Doug Peterson comes back to Philadelphia, the only coach in the history of this organization to bring home a Lombardi trophy. That game set for November 3rd, Sunday Night Football. Kickoff slated for 8:20 p.m. Eastern. The tailgating scene in South Philadelphia is going to be incredible. And the same can be said for this Week 17 tilt against the Dallas Cowboys, December 29th, 4:25 p.m. Eastern, that late window Fox primetime game. If I had one wish, and the NFL won't do this because it would be too solid colors as far as the jerseys go, I'd throw it back to the 80s and 90s. Birds rock the Kelly Greens, and then Dallas wears those old school blue uniforms that they rarely wear. That would be a great jersey matchup. Unfortunately, the Cowboys are probably going to wear their whites, but can they wear their throwback whites? That would be cool. If you think the Kelly Green jerseys are fresh, icy cold, and clean, I think they're some of the nicest jerseys in all of professional sports, then I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. Should the 49ers sign a wide receiver if he gets cut? Who are we talking about? This man on your screen, JuJu Smith-Schuster, looked at as a cut candidate going into training camp and the 2024 season. Going into 2023 after winning the Super Bowl for Kansas City and having a really good year for the Chiefs a couple of years ago, got a nice little payday. 3-year contract, $25.5 million, so he's entering year 2 of that 3-year deal. And what did the Patriots do this offseason, which could signal the end of JuJu in New England and maybe signal a youth movement for New England at the wide receiver spot after drafting their franchise quarterback hopeful in Drake May? They took Jalen Polk as well as Javon Baker. Polk, Baker, two speedsters. They have a lot of talent in what was a very deep and loaded wide receiver class in the 2024 NFL draft class. Now, the Patriots would be on the hook for $9.5 million in dead money in 2024 and then $2.5 million in 2025, but they can afford it. Why? They have the most cap space in the NFL currently at $43.3 million. And offensively, I don't think they're close to being a competitive team. I do think their defense is going to be able to keep them in games. And for the Eagles, Smith-Schuster, been in the league for a minute, was a Pro Bowler with the Pittsburgh Steelers when him and Antonio Brown paired up to be a really good 1-2 punch in the Steel City. He's only 27 years old, but he is coming off a horrible year in which he signs that deal, only plays 11 games, dealt with the knee injury all that year because after winning the Super Bowl with Kansas City, he underwent a knee surgery, and after the operation, wasn't the same. He even talked about that, how he wasn't close to 100% in training camp, and then throughout the year, bad quarterback play, awful offensive system, bad offensive coordinator. It was just a disaster under Bill Belichick. He didn't have good numbers. 47 targets, 29 catches, 260 yards, and 1 touchdown. That is not what New England paid him for. But the year before that in 2022 with Kansas City, He was one of the top targets for Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. He was targeted 101 times. That's a huge workload. Reeled in 78 catches for 933 yards and 3 touchdowns. Year before that, played 5 games with Pittsburgh. And then before that, another solid campaign with Pittsburgh. 128 targets, 97 grabs, 831 yards, and 9 touchdowns. So if the Philadelphia Eagles were to bring him in if he got cut by New England, can you get that 2022 JuJu as far as health and production? And that as a wide receiver 3 on this team could be pretty intriguing. Why the Eagles could do it if New England no longer wants him. Very solid number 3 wide receiver. Never became that one that maybe people thought he was going to be early in his career with the Steelers. That's okay. The Birds at the wide receiver position are thin after A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Paris Campbell is the wide receiver 3 now, has good speed, but he's never stayed healthy. And then outside of that, Arnaiah Smith, Johnny Wilson, and Britton Covey ready to step in at that wide receiver spot. Joseph Nagata, another name to throw in the mix. So the Birds here in turn, an injury away from some pretty big question marks at that wide receiver position. Other cut candidates to watch who could be interest to Philadelphia if their respective teams cut them free. JuJu, John Mechie III. He's not far removed from putting up massive numbers at the University of Alabama. Unfortunately, he missed his first year in the NFL because he was diagnosed with leukemia. Thankfully, he has been able to beat that. But what did the Texans do this offseason? They traded for Stephon Diggs. They have Tank Dell. They paid Nico Collins. So is Mechie on the outside looking in? And Matt Milano did get injured last year with what I believe was a broken leg, but he's been a very productive linebacker for a long time in a good defensive system, and we know that the Eagles are thin at off-ball linebacker. With that, let's pop up this poll question here. Let's hear from the audience. Should the Birds sign JuJu Smith-Schuster if he's cut? Type S for sign and P for pass. And I also want to pose this question. Is anybody over this? I'm talking about the Super Bowl loss. I'm talking about the play, the James Bradberry hold on JuJu Smith-Schuster. I never will be. It's one of the great heartbreaks of my entire life, and it brings back some nightmares for me. Live doing a watch party right here on this show. You're thinking the Eagles are going to get the ball back with the way that offense was humming all night against Kansas City and the way that Jalen Hurts was playing. You knew they were going to march down the field and get points, whether that be a field goal, whether it be a touchdown. I thought Philadelphia, right before this play, was going to take down Kansas City. I thought that Eagles now was going to hit the road to a Super Bowl parade for the second time since 2017. Would have been electric. I have not gone back to watch the highlights for this game because my heart cannot take it. F the refs. F Roger Goodell. I'm still salty. And that call never should have been made. I left the studio, I got a football, I set up a chair, and I threw it as hard as I could at that chair to take out my anger because that was a tough one to take, and I still feel as though I got kicked in the balls. Ugh. And rant. All right, so the first 2 stories of today's show. Kelly Green jerseys. Those dates announced. Should the Birds sign JuJu Smith-Schuster? And we have another mystery player who we want to talk about. Pay attention to this rising Eagle. We're going to talk about that coming up here in just a few moments. But we also want to say thank you to our friends at True Nutrition, a brand new sponsor here at Chat Sports and on Philadelphia Eagles now, for making today's show possible. If you're buying protein powder or other supplements, you should be concerned about the ingredients. It's no secret that the supplement industry is not heavily regulated, and many products on the market have fillers and even harmful chemicals in them. That's why I'm excited to talk about True Nutrition. Unlike most supplement brands that focus on marketing a product that is manufactured elsewhere, True Nutrition manufactures its own products while marketing takes a back seat. True Nutrition was formed to provide protein powders and supplements with no fillers, no additives, no gluten, and most importantly, no BS. It can be really hard to find the right protein powder to match your body and fitness goals. That's why with True Nutrition, you can create your own fully customizable protein powder mix with the exact ingredients that you want based on your activity, taste, diet, and goals. What's more is that you can even see nutrition facts in real time as you create the mix. This truly is sports nutrition designed for you. And for everybody listening right now and watching the show, you can get 15% off when you use the code CHAT. That is code CHAT at truenutrition.com/chat. I love the customizable process on the website, protein, electrolytes right here. I'm sipping on some protein powder, strawberry flavor. I was able to put together the ingredients for this, and I saw it in real time. I'm not lying to you, and it allows me to meet my fitness goals. I'm on a run streak that's approaching well over 400 days, and I'm trying to add some bulk and muscle too. True Nutrition benefits. Ready in minutes, pure ingredients, nutritious and delicious, accessible and affordable. So for a limited time, our listeners, our viewers, getting 15% off your entire order. Use the code CHAT at checkout. That's 15% off your order. truenutrition.com/chat. Code CHAT. Take the guesswork out of nutrition with True Nutrition. Link is down below in the show notes of this video. Story number 3 on today's show. I want every Eagles fan watching this show right now to start paying attention to this player right here. It's Eagles cornerback Isaiah Rodgers, a player who is really rising up the depth chart, turning heads this offseason, and in the spring during OTAs and mandatory minicamp, he performed very, very well, even getting some first-team reps at outside corner opposite of Darius Slay for Vic Fangio's defense. And that's a great sign because last year, as we know, he was suspended due to a gambling suspension in which he laid down more than 100 bets. That's illegal for NFL players to do. Some of those bets were on his own team, but he sat out all year. He paid the punishment. And now he's got a golden opportunity at the cornerback spot, a cornerback room for Philadelphia that is extremely deep. And more on the player here, for those of you not familiar, still only 26 years old. He's always been a smaller corner at 5'10", 176 pounds. He grew up in Tampa, Florida, went to high school there as well. And then for college, he played at the football powerhouse of UMass. I say that tongue-in-cheek sarcastically. Getting sarcasm, a great trait for people, by the way. Drafted in the 6th round in 2020 by the Indianapolis Colts, and he's coming off that gambling suspension. After it was deemed that he was going to be suspended, in addition to another teammate and other players, Philadelphia signed him. And of course, it wasn't to the active roster. It was pretty much a sign and stash, hoping that he was going to be reinstated for the 2024 campaign. This offseason, he got reinstated by the National Football League in addition to playing corner, and he primarily plays on the outside. Very limited reps in the slot, despite the lack of size. He also has return experience. Here's what NFL.com had to say about Rodgers pre-draft coming out of UMass for their scouting profile. Slender, ball-hawking cornerback who will need to prove he can make a move from outside into the slot at the next level. So NFL draft evaluators thought that he was going to be a slot guy at the NFL level. He stayed outside. That's a credit to him. Furthermore, he has blazing closing speed on long throws with plus ball skills to play the football and constrict catch space. His twitch and instincts allow him to pounce on top of throws from off man, but his slight frame could be an issue when teams target him with bigger bodies in coverage. He's a plus return man, which adds to his value, but his success could rest upon how he handles a transition inside and whether his body can hold up in run support. Hasn't been bad against the run, although sometimes he can struggle there because he's a little bit smaller. Sometimes when targeted, he is susceptible to struggling against larger wide receivers. So some of the elements of that scouting report have rung true. Here were his strengths from NFL.com as part of that. Consistent ball production all 4 years. Finished with 11 career picks, including 3 returned for touchdowns. So big playability for Isaiah Rodgers. The plus long speed shows in recovery over the top. Very instinctive and football smart. Anticipates the route break and drives on top of it from man or off man, squeezes the route and the catch space, finds the football with back to the ball, has the kick and punt return talent. And I think that some of the parts of that have also come to fruition here. Ball skills, twitchy athlete, making plays on the football, really confident player, which I think has helped him because he is a little bit smaller. NFL.com on his weaknesses in the pre-draft process. Slightly built and doesn't have much room for additional mass. He's still small. will get big-bodied in space on occasion. That has happened from time to time in the NFL level. Big targets can elevate and pick the football over the top of him. Gives away valuable early ground on his turn and run. Slow in, coming to balance as an open field tackler, could have issues in holding up in NFL run support. Sometimes against the run, Isaiah Rodgers can struggle a little bit, but he's ended up becoming a pretty talented pro, and we'll take a look at the 2022 numbers coming up here in just a moment, his last year in the NFL, and it's not like he played all that much, but when he was on the field, he was graded very highly analytically by Pro Football Focus. And we're talking about him on today's show because ESPN reporters who cover all 32 teams across the NFL picked one player from each team who has surprised and could play a big role for their teams this upcoming season. Tim McManus is the Eagles beat reporter for ESPN, and this is what he had to say when he picked Isaiah Rodgers. Rodgers was suspended for the entire year last year for violating the league's gambling policy, but has not shown much rust this offseason. He got work at outside corner with the first team, splitting time with second-year corner Kelee Ringo, who has also impressed. Rodgers opened some eyes during an OTA practice in late May when he broke on a short pass from Jalen Hurts, swooped in for the interception. Here's what A.J. Brown had to say about Rodgers. For a guy that has not played football for a year, coming back, he looks like he has been playing nonstop. He's flying around, and he's going to do special stuff for us this year. That's coming from one of the top wide receivers in the National Football League, ladies and gentlemen, and A.J. Brown. And then McManus continued by saying, it will be a fascinating competition for the starting spot opposite of Darius Slay this summer, with Rodgers, Ringo, and Quinion Mitchell all vying for that spot. All things that we've talked about here on the show. The cornerback room is deep. The cornerback competition is going to be very good. And can this man start opposite of Darius Slay? Well, if he plays like he did in 2022, the answer might very well be yes. And that's why you have to start paying attention right now, because we always have great foresight on this program. Pro Football Focus overall grade back in 2022 of 82.1. That was top 20 among cornerbacks. Pro Football Focus run defense. Remember the NFL.com scouting report in saying that he could struggle playing on the outside and against the run? He could check off both of those boxes. A coverage grade of 81.5, a passer rating allowed of 106.3. That's a little bit concerning. And that has to do with maybe some of the bigger wide receivers having their way with Isaiah Rodgers, and then the coverage snaps at 283. So not the largest sample size. Can he become a starter? If not, if this is one of your backups, this is a great situation for the Eagles here because they did not have depth or quality play at the cornerback position last year. We saw how it cost this Eagles secondary. This year, though, that could all change. Will Rodgers start? That's the big question and a poll question here that I want you to answer. S for start or B for backup? Kelee Ringo, Quinion Mitchell, Isaiah Rodgers, they're going to be competing to start opposite of Big Play Slay. Before we hop on out of here, hope everybody's having a great weekend. Make sure you give me a follow. I'm on X at Chase_Senior, Instagram at Chase_Senior, both social media pages popping right now. I put out a lot of short form content covering the entire National Football League, including the Birds. I cover NBA, college football. I'm doing it all because you can't be a one-way stiff out on these streets.